Good morning and welcome to our community affairs program that we call 30 Minutes. Today our special guest is Mr. Johnny McTurner. He is the city manager for the city of Union City. Johnny, it's a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you, Charles. I appreciate that.
Johnny, you've been the city manager for how long now?
For about 6 months here in Union City.
Getting acquainted to the job?
Getting acquainted to a job like this, you get in and you jump in the flow. To me, in my opinion, it's like steering a big ship. You just make small adjustments along the way. You never want to do a 180 with a big ship. So same way with any size city.
As we do each week with the program, we like to let our guest introduce themselves. So, Johnny, I'll turn that over to you.
Well, my name is Johnny McTurner. I've been in Obion County all my life. Originally from Sandburg. Grew up in the Clayton area. Graduated from OCCHS in 91, college in 95 at UTM, ag business degree. I've done several small jobs in and out between college and Goodyear. When I got a job at Goodyear, 14 years in supervision there.
I forgot about you working at Goodyear.
Yes, sir. Yeah, mainly in the tire room, 14 years. So that's where I learned a lot of the supervisory experience that I have. From there, I got on with Hickman as a city manager. Stayed there about 5 years. Enjoyed working with Hickman and all the people. Learned a lot in Hickman. Hickman had a really tight budget. Learned to operate many things on a shoestring budget. Went to Troy, was there for about 6 years. I started off as city recorder. Then the form of government was changed in Troy probably 3 years in. So 3 years city managing, 3 years city recording. Then from there came to Union City. As
you mentioned there, when you were at UT Martin, took classes in agriculture field. That's what you really wanted to do, I guess, at first, wasn't it?
Yes, sir. So agriculture business, I wanted to stay in this area, and I knew farming, sales, fertilizer sales, seed sales, chemical sales were big in this area. So in order to stay in this area and make the decent living, I thought that was the way to go. I did work for Crop Production Services, an arm of Crop Production Services. It was called Delta Corporation at the time over in Lake County under Ed Samara and Bill Latimer. And that was right out of college for about maybe a year and a half, 2 years. Then I moved on from there, doing different things.
Now, what really enticed you into the field of government, city government, which I do have some familiarity with that in your first job, because when you came to work in Hickman as city manager, I was on the city commission at the time.
Yes, sir. I didn't really understand exactly what city manager even was, or what kind of job it would consist of. But when I went for the first interview, it kind of got me hooked, because it was questions about how, the water plant, the sewer plant, the citizens, the natural gas running through the city, the streets. I didn't really understand how it all worked all together. But when the questions were asked in my first interview in Hickman, I was kind of hooked on city government, and I thought I would be a great person to pick. Didn't know at the time that I was going to be picked, because there were 5 or 6 other candidates in the foyer waiting for the interview also. And I just remember I got the call on the way from Hickman back to Union City that, when can you start? So I
sure did.
And then I've been in the business ever since.
And it goes back, I guess, to your supervision at the Goodyear plant.
I think so. That, along with just, I was plumbing. When I was working at Goodyear for about 14 years, I met a guy named Larry Armstrong that plumbed most of his life, a lot of big plumbing. And so me and him plumbed together for about 10 years. We were on third shift, so we'd work at Goodyear at night. In the day, we were putting in water lines, plumbing houses, doing different things.
So when you went to work at Hickman, you had the wastewater system, you had the water treatment plant, you had a lot going on there. On top of, you were in charge of finances for the city too. So that's a pretty daunting task to take on.
So yeah, the budget in Hickman, if I remember correctly, may have been 3 million or so. Got to Troy, it was around the same thing. Then I get to Union City, and it's more in the 28 million to 30 million range. So huge amounts of difference in the budget. Doesn't mean there's extra money or less money. Right. It all gets fairly much spent along the way. So Hickman when something happened in Hickman, it was big time. If we had rain and a little bit of mudslide, a sewer line would break in half. So it was not ever just a little bit of mud got in a sewer line. It was big time. In Troy, when it would rain, we'd get a little bit of infiltration in our sewer, and that's the way it is in Union City, so nothing major. It's just the hills in Hickman are loosely packed. I don't know how else to put it. It's a great place, great people.
But they just have the issues.
There's several issues. It's very hard to correct as far as utilities.
So it's fair to say you learned quite a bit there then.
If I hadn't went there first, and I say I started in Troy, I'd probably still just be in Troy trying to figure things out. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when you learn in a place like where I was having to go to the water plant every morning, go to the sewer plant every morning, make sure the gates on our main natural gas line were functioning and had the right chemicals in them so people can smell if they had a leak. That's different. You understand from the ground up on how a city works and not just what I call a bean counter. You're not just a guy that looks at the finances and says, this is the way we got to do it, and never really get out and talk to the people. I'm a guy that got to get out, talk to the public works guys, talk to the firefighters, the police, ride around with them. I want to know what's happening out here. Turf guys, parks guys, all of them. I like seeing it from the ground up. It makes a budget, me applying the numbers to the people, a lot easier, more understandable.
So it's good to know what your guys are doing out there.
Yeah, it's very important.
Let's talk about your Troy job, because you had the opportunity to work with the late Deanna Chappell, and she loved Troy, didn't she?
She loved Troy. I believe she spent most of her life in Troy. I believe she grew up in Dresden. Most of her life in Troy. I think she was a teacher for about 40 years.
I think so.
And so everybody that walked into City Hall, she either taught them or taught their kids or a combination. She knew pretty much everyone.
Yeah. She had a sincere love for that community. How was that job, leaving Hickman? What was different about that job? About the same population, I guess, in a way.
It's really close to the same population, within 200 or 300 different. The difference that I could see in Hickman, when I left, there were 2 restaurants. I think Meemaw's was still open, and Hub's, and I believe that was the only 2 restaurants, and then 1 gas station. I don't remember the name of it. It's the only one still there. And there was a liquor store, a Dollar General, and I think that's it. I'm pretty sure. It's real close to that. So you didn't have a lot of sales tax coming in. The property tax, in Kentucky, you hit a certain age and your property tax either goes away or it's very, very low.
Called homestead exemption.
That's right, homestead exemption. Then on the other side, you have people that live in like HUD-type housing where there is no property tax. So the city has very, very little money to work with. So it's so tight you can't really, no wiggle room in anything.
And a big disadvantage for Kentucky is that in Tennessee, when you spend money at a store or restaurant here, a portion of that money stays in the community. Kentucky doesn't do that.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah. So that takes a lot of operating money away on the Kentucky side that you got at Troy and you have here in Union City.
That is correct. And so when I come to Troy, I believe there were 3 gas stations. And so we had gas tax, and the gas tax was set up different in Kentucky than it is Tennessee. So when someone buys fuel in your city, a portion of that tax on the fuel comes back to the city.
Right.
All sales tax from those gas stations. You also had an E.W. James, you had several small restaurants, so there was quite a bit of sales tax coming back to Troy. Property tax, they have the golf course with the upscale homes out there, so the property tax was good, along with all the other homes there in Troy and other small subdivisions up. Really fine, nice homes. Everybody's paying their fair share of property tax, so the town had money to actually work with, hire good employees all throughout. Water rates were decent. You can make things happen.
Yeah. And you did a big project while you were there with the park, didn't you? The crumb rubber.
That's right. Deanna was the main player in that deal. That was a 4-year type grant, and it involved about 3 different grants. So at the end of 4 years, she was still mayor, still going fairly strong, but she learned of her diagnosis, so she was moving a little slower. She was just glad to see it to the end, and we had a crumb rubber grant was one of them. So it was the first one in Obion County. I don't know about the first one in the state, but the first one in Obion County was they took old scrap tires from landfills, ground them up, got the metal out, and that's what the track is actually made of in Troy.
That was a pretty big project.
It's a very big project, yes, sir.
Now, you started out there as the city recorder. Eventually, it changed over. The government changed over to city manager. What was the difference in between those two jobs, or really was there any?
So the city recorder keeps the minutes, and in Troy, the invoices, keep the books, make sure the journal entries are correct, make sure the audits were on time, the yearly audits. Got with the accountants, making sure journal entries are correct at the end of the month, reconciling bank accounts. As city manager, those jobs were supposedly split. So city manager is able to sign some contracts, certain contracts throughout. You didn't have to have just the mayor's signature with a city recorder backup. A lot of times the city manager would sign and handle the day-to-day workings of the city instead of a mayor having to come in. In Troy, it was set up as a part-time mayor. Aldermen meet once a month, and the mayor would meet once a month. Mayor would come and go anytime, and that's the way it was set up. So you needed someone with management experience in these towns to handle the day-to-day. And without that, you're not really shooting in the dark, but it's just kind of floating its own way with no guidance, if that makes sense.
When someone comes in that door and needs some answers or has questions, somebody has to be there to answer them.
Somebody needs to be able to answer and not just say, well, come back at 3 o'clock. They're supposed to be here.
Right.
A lot of times they can't come back at 3 o'clock. Everybody's on a schedule.
Right.
So someone needs to be there and have an answer one way or the other.
Well, you learned, and we all learned not too long ago, that Miss Kathy Dillon, who was the longtime city manager here in Union City, had decided to retire at the end of last year. What enticed you to apply for that job?
Just a different challenge. So, Hickman was a challenge, being on a small budget, tight budget. Troy was a challenge going from a city recorder running a few things to converting the government to a city manager form of government. That was a challenge in getting it going and keeping it going the way it was. And then I just thought this would be a next good step for me if I got hired. So I put my resume in, got called back for, I think, maybe 3 total interviews, and they called me back. Yeah, it's been I like challenges. It's not that it's an overly difficult job or it's an easy job. Every day's a different challenge. No matter what I have on my list to do for that day, most of the time that doesn't get done. It gets pushed on, and I help many people with their problems as they come in.
Sure.
Whatever they may be. But I know at that moment in time when someone comes in, no matter what the problem is, that's the most important problem in their mind at that moment in time. So I try to listen to them, help them if I can, or put it in a plan to be helped along the way.
I had a city manager tell me one time that when people came into his office with fire in their eyes, he always liked to see them leave smiling. Is that true?
That's good if they would leave smiling.
Doesn't
always. Sometimes they leave madder than when you give them an answer and you give them a right answer. Could be wrong in their head.
Right.
It's not what they want to hear, and they leave more fired up than when they came in. Doesn't happen often. Most of the time, people want someone to listen to their problem, what they've got going on. Sometimes, this is about 90% of the time, I can help them through their problem. It's really not a problem. It's just a small issue with 3 or 4 houses. I've gone to 3 or 4 houses and talked to everyone, and everybody works it out. But most of the time, it's that simple. Very seldom do you get extreme irate and total chaos. Yeah. Very seldom.
And a lot of time, clarification of laws and rules helps out a lot too, that they don't understand that either.
No, that helps. That's so a lot of times we'll have people that feel sorry for animals. Say cats. Cats are difficult to trap. They're difficult to put in a cage and hold for so many days and hope someone adopt them. It's a great idea if you have cats, have them spayed or neutered, because cats they're going to come and go, and someone feels sorry for them. You've got 3 cats you're just feeding, they're not yours. Before you know it, there's 15 cats around. Then they become a nuisance very, very fast.
Right.
So if anybody is listening to this, spay and neuter.
Yeah. Make the neighbors happy there.
Yes, please.
Again, today we are speaking with Johnny McTurner, the city manager for the city of Union City. You had a big benefit starting this job. You got to work with Miss Dillon for about 6 months or so? 3 months. That had to be a huge bonus right there, didn't it? She
has a lot of knowledge. She's been in that type of business probably 20, 25 years.
At least, yeah.
Not just in Union City, but in South Fulton and up in, I think, Illinois, or some towns in Illinois she helped with. And so
she could crunch the pennies and nickels, couldn't she?
She knew how to make a budget work, even a very tight budget. And very, very, very tight to the rules, I guess you could say. Very tight to the rules. So, and she got a lot of things done. She knew how to go and get grants and keep the paperwork the way it needs to be. And for audits, she passed the budget in a timely manner, and was able to make things happen with the people. And it seemed like everyone here enjoyed working with her. They knew where she stood, she knew where they stood, and everybody got along.
You know, Terry Haley told me not long ago when Kathy came into the job, Union City didn't have any money, and she turned that around and just made it work and put some money in the bank.
Yeah. So early on, she was telling me it was difficult to even make payroll.
Yeah.
Here, and so she had to tighten the belt probably for about 5 years, and couldn't buy it. Whatever you had, you just had to make it work. Whether it be a car, a backhoe, or a tool, or anything like that, you just had to make it work for about 5 years. If someone retired, they try not to replace them for a period of time just to get by until we're able to get back on our feet and make things happen. Right now, as far as the budget, it's decent. We don't have tons of money in the bank, but we do have enough. If a catastrophe happens, we can get things going fairly quickly without having to involve the state or FEMA directly.
Yeah, that's always good news. And Johnny, let's talk about some things here today before we have to end the program that are going on in Union City. And I know one that you've mentioned 2 or 3 times in city council meetings before, in May, that you're having the annual spring cleanup.
Well, that's right. So the annual spring cleanup will consist of 2 roll-off dumpsters from platform waste. One will be placed at the Coca-Cola plant. And I hope it's on Reelfoot Avenue. I hope everyone knows where the Coca-Cola plant is. One will be placed on Reelfoot Avenue out by Wendy's. And so they'll be there from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. This is Saturdays.
Every Saturday in May.
I had the dates, but I don't know right off. But it's every Saturday in May. I believe it's 5 Saturdays in May. And there will be someone from Platform Waste. The truck driver will be there. So if anyone's bringing out waste, just know it's no tires, no shingles, no water heaters, anything like that. It's limbs, sticks, whatever you have in your garage. No paint, no wasted oil.
But it's a good opportunity to clean up around your house, in your shop, your shed.
And it doesn't cost anything.
At no cost.
It only costs you the gas to get there. And please put it inside the dumpster, not up against the dumpster.
Again, that's every Saturday in May, and that's an annual event. And I think each Saturday they fill them up.
They do completely. That's right.
So it is very well used. At the last city council meeting, the board voted to make a portion of Depot Street there, close to City Hall, a one-way street. You say this was much needed.
Yeah, I think it's much needed with Kiwanis Park right there, and you have Kiwanis Park, Depot Street next to Kiwanis Park, and then the back side of the businesses on First Street. So you have people coming and going out of those businesses. You have kids at Kiwanis Park that'll cut across a lot of times to get to the sidewalk and cut up and go to, say, Trudy's. Trudy's is usually really busy in the afternoon, and a lot of times you got vehicles parked on both sides of Depot Street, so you just have a narrow way that one vehicle could fit down through there. Even truckers, you've got a 40-foot trailer behind you. It's very difficult to get down through there and drop your supplies off. So making this a one-way street from Washington Street to Church Street, all flowing north. Everybody parks on the east side of Depot Street. That widens that road up to almost double. So we've got the tractor trailer rigs that can get down through there easily. You've got the bob trucks, and kids you can clearly see vehicles coming. You're not jumping from vehicle to vehicle to try to get across the street. So I think it's a much needed thing, safety wise for kids and safety wise for vehicles, popping each other's mirror. If that makes sense.
Hey, when will the signage be up for that, Johnny, to get that in effect?
The signage is up. So
it's up now.
Signage is up now. We pretty much immediately got it up. See, the meeting was Tuesday. Then this is Thursday. We started putting it up. The meeting was last Tuesday. We probably started putting it up this Tuesday. And so we got the one ways in which direction, and we got the do not enters on the Church Street side, and we let all the business owners know. Now we're letting the public know it was in the paper, and maybe we'll put it on the radio a couple more times, and maybe in the paper again. Police officers will 30 or 40 days go out and remind people. Just no tickets given right off the bat, but we just want the public to know, because it's easy to forget. It's been a one-way street for many, many years, and now we're all going one way, safety-wise. Yeah.
Also, just recently, I know you're very proud of this, the Water Department was given an award for Region 8 for the best tasting water. That's a great award.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so it's a Region 8 best quality. What that is I think it's maybe 10 counties or so, something like that, in West Tennessee compete for this award. So what that does is put us in with the state. So here in a couple of months, our water guy is going to go to Gatlinburg with our sample of water, and then we're in for best water quality in the state of Tennessee. If we win it, then it goes over the entire United States. I think we go to Washington, D.C. for that. So it's a great honor for our water here in Union City. We've got a lot of hard-working guys in the water plant as well as the wastewater. We had 2 people that won scholarships during this program in the wastewater, just to go and get their license for the wastewater plant. I believe that's what it was for. And so they take a lot of pride in running our water plant and our wastewater plant. We get a lot of calls saying the water's murky or dirty or something like that because we were cleaning out hydrants or something. Could be a little iron settled, or it could be something in their household lines. The water's safe to drink, and it's the best tasting water in 10 counties. Yeah,
that's a great award. And give a plug for the Public Works Director, Jason Moss, who really does a good job.
He does an awesome job. Yeah, Jason stays on it. And we do daily staff meetings. Weekly staff meetings. It's usually every Thursday. But with Jason being over water, wastewater distribution, collection, streets, it's almost daily. He comes and sits with me for almost an hour and going over many, many things throughout the city. And I need that information, and he needs to hear from me which way we need to be going. So it's a lot of departments.
Well, congratulations to you, and congratulations to them on that award. And you mentioned streets. What's the update on the Home Street project? That's been a pretty big project.
Home Street, we're about 50% through with Home Street as far as the utilities. So they did the stormwater first, all the way from Reelfoot to what street was that they went to?
It was down
a
few
Main,
blocks there.
I think
yeah.
Main Street.
Yeah.
Went all the way to Main Street, and so they took care of the stormwater. They're coming back, and they're doing the water and sewer. Water lines, sewer lines, brand new taps on the sewer and water, both.
Yeah.
So all utilities down Home Street, along with several more gate valves. So we can section, if we've got a water leak in town, instead of cutting half the town off or 4 or 5 blocks at a time, if we found the leak, we can do a block at a time instead of 4 or 5 blocks at a time, if that makes sense. We centered the area down by putting these gate valves in. Never been done before in that area. And so we get that done. The road's going to be rough. Usually by fall, August or so, we shouldn't be having asphalt on it.
Yeah. Get that blacktop on there before it gets cool.
I hope so.
You mentioned something earlier about garbage carts. I understand that there's been a lot of calls to City Hall about people leaving their garbage carts out at the road. You're wanting them to bring them back toward the house, aren't you?
Yeah, please, whatever day your garbage runs on, your garbage tote, the little green that says Red River, or it may say platform waste now. Once the garbage truck runs and it is empty, please pull it back up to the house, to your garage, wherever you place that. Being out next to the road, if there's a little bit of wind or anything like that, sometimes they get blown out in the road, and bigger trucks, it's harder for them to swerve and miss. So it could cause an accident. Just please pull your totes back toward your house.
Not a law or ordinance. This is just pure courtesy.
Just pure courtesy, please. Just pull them back. Most of the time, it's not very far to pull your cart.
Right. We are just about to run out of time for today's program, but I know that all the young children here in the area are wanting to know, Johnny, when will the splash pad open this year? Do you know?
It's not too far off. The splash pad is going to open on May 24th. And is that a Saturday? I believe. I didn't look.
Look here right quick and see what it is. May 24th is on a Friday.
On a Friday, so May 24th. I don't have an exact time, but I feel like I'll be back with a time.
Yeah.
Probably in a couple of weeks.
Should be good and hot by then to be ready to get out in that water.
That's right. That's exactly right. We'll have everything repaired, painted, and going strong.
Yeah. Well, Johnny, we appreciate you very much coming by and being on today's program. I appreciate all the information that you give me from the meetings and the call you gave the other day about the best water, keeping us informed. That's what we're here for, and we appreciate it very much. And you're doing a good job. Hang in there.
Thank you, Charles. I appreciate it. Any compliment is a great compliment to me. Most of the phone calls we get are, what are you doing on Home Street? Why did you do this? Why are you wasting money? Very seldom do you ever get a call saying, appreciate what you're doing out there. Tell your guys, let them know. But I'll be sure and pass that along.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I think all your department heads and all your departments, everything's going real well for the city of Union City.
Yeah, without the staff that we have here, it'd be very, very difficult to run this city. These folks here that are staff and the people under them, they want to work for the city. It's they feel pride in everything they do, from the police department, fire department, parks, turf, everything in between. They take pride in it, and it shows from people driving through the city to the water they drink. It's a great city.
Again, congratulations, Johnny.
Thank you, Charles.
And that concludes this week's 30 Minutes program. We hope you enjoyed today's show. And, of course, we invite you to tune in again next week at this same time as we bring you topics and information of importance to our community. From all of us here at Thunderbolt Broadcasting, until we meet again next week, I'm Charles Choate.
You've been listening to 30 Minutes, a community affairs program on Thunderbolt Radio. You can listen to this broadcast and others anytime by visiting thunderboltradio.com and following the Thunderbolt Radio and Digital YouTube page. Thanks for listening.